Now, joining me from Las Vegas is Laura Schwartz, old friend, analyst and commentator, former White House director of special events for President Bill Clinton, also the author of Eat, Drink, and Succeed. Great to see you, Laura.
Great to be back, Larry.
Okay, everybody's saying, the analysts are saying that Hillary won that debate Tuesday. You agree?
I do. I think she was poised, she was comfortable, she was in command, and I think she really diffused some of the arguments that have been tough and kind of a barrier for her getting her message out. But that's not to discount that it was a very good night for Bernie Sanders.
Why, the latest Wall Street Journal NBC News poll, Mrs. Clinton in the positive-negative feelings among women breaks about even. And only 34% among men have positive feelings. What's the matter?
I think it's a trust issue. I think that they would have liked to see her come out earlier this summer to talk about the email, all the emails being released. So when she finally admitted that, hey, it was a mistake, I shouldn't have done it, I think she had to get some work up now. And I think last night at the debate, because Bernie Sanders gave her such an opening, I think as soon as that can die down, and I think after last night it will, I heard that at the press filing center over at the Wynn where the debate was, when Bernie Sanders sort of slapped back at the whole email scandal, they erupted in applause, because I don't think the media wants to cover the emails any longer than the candidates want to talk about it, because it's really just distracting from the issues at hand. Now, the more issues she can talk about in larger forums and come across like she did last night, I think those numbers will get better among men and women.
So you think they will go up?
I think they will, especially because last night she talked about leading a fight so that Planned Parenthood is not defunded. She talked about Social Security and increasing it for single moms and for widowers that don't have the pension saved up after their husbands pass away. And so I think she's defining some real family and female issues that I believe are starting to get across now that are going to make that difference. Same thing for her reaching out on immigrations with the Dreamers. She even met with Dreamers in Las Vegas before the debate last night, and her new deal for Black Lives Matter and looking at the ethnic community. I think those issues alone will start bringing her back to where she needs to be going into a general election.
Well, the analysts, the editorialists, the pundits all gave the debate to her, but social media, I guess driven by young voters, overwhelmingly gave it to Bernie.
Absolutely. His numbers, every time he spoke, everything spiked for him. You know, he talked a lot about climate change. He talked about the economics of it all. But I think what comes across from Bernie, he's got this cadence where he doesn't seem like he has a filter. Sometimes Hillary can seem like she's got a filter on, but he looks like he's just sitting down having a conversation with you, whether he was in an armchair next to you or on a debate stage. And he does the same thing at the rallies. Look at the crowds he's been attracting. And they don't seem to dissipate and kind of just check him out for a few minutes and leave. They stay there attentive. I think his cadence, I think what he's saying really rings with this next generation of millennials. And I think it's great, Larry. I think whether he wins the primaries or not, and I do believe that it's really tilted towards Mrs. Clinton at this point, but I tell you, I think he's bringing a whole new generation of excited voters to the stage.
If Bernie's great with social media, as I recollect, Obama won using social media, could Bernie Sanders upend things?
Well, it's going to be a really tough fight in Iowa off the bat and then on to New Hampshire. But that is such a good point, Larry. Hillary's team has Obama's social media person running it. They are doing everything they can. But I really think that the so-called scandals have been holding back those retweets and those favorites. And Bernie has been able to just communicate directly without any scandals really being in his way. Now, whether these scandals are proven or not, they're there for Hillary. So I think, though, after last night, she's really breaking through that. But social media, and when you get the turnout, they call it the GOTV. We hear that phrase a lot, get out the vote. Well, if social media is turning out the vote this caucus and primary season, then yes, he will use that machine as well as Obama did. But not to discount Hillary's machine. They're gearing up. They're ready to go.
Should she use President Clinton more?
Yes. I think she should. I think she should. And I think they've sort of found out when the global initiative, the Clinton Global Initiative Summit, coordinated with the UN General Assembly about a month ago, you saw President Clinton starting to do interviews over that weekend. And you could tell that he was comfortable without overstepping his wife's message. And I think that was a good way to roll him out, get him back into the public talking about Hillary, and I think he will. I think he knows where he can be an asset now because he knows where he took away from her last time.
McCain and Romney did not use George W. Bush much in their campaigns. Will the Democratic nominee use Obama?
They seemed to last night. They didn't really throw too much of the Obama background underneath the bus. Hillary seemed to use it when it was, for foreign policy matters. When she's talking about the trade agreement at the time, that's coming up right now is a big hot issue for her. I think it'll be one of the leading issues going in the next month, along with the Benghazi hearings next week. But I think that she can both use the administration's accomplishments to her benefit, and she can also say, listen, I was the Secretary of State. I put my 2 cents in, as she's talked about in the past. But ultimately, things happen because it's a consortium of people involved. And she was one of those folks in the administration, but she also had a very independent voice that she'll highlight when needed.
You're a professional speaker. You teach speaking. I wrote a whole book, How to Talk to Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere. That's still selling. And I know how well you do teaching people, so I'm going to ask you to rate some others.
Okay.
O'Malley, how did he do?
Oh, maybe a 4.
Why? He's pretty good, generally.
He's pretty good, but I don't think he was ready for the debate stage next to Hillary. He's taking her on, and Hillary had a great line, and I'm sure this was ready. But to say, like, well, and I really appreciate you supporting me in 2008, and he had nothing to say back to that. And he looked like he was a little taken back at that point. And no matter what, you just want to keep that cool, that calmness, and don't go after somebody on something if you're not ready for what you can anticipate as the response. So I think the next debate, I think he'll still be in. I don't think he's going anywhere immediately. And I think he needs to just get a bit more comfortable in his role as well.
Lincoln Chafee.
Oh, I'm surprised Lincoln Chafee is still in after the debate. I think he's in for a while. He said after the debate, this is not going to dissuade him. He's going to keep on fighting through, though the question is, does he have the money to spend? Lincoln Chafee seemed to bounce up and down, and if you notice, the camera had to follow him during the debate as he was responding, and I think that kind of took away from what he was saying.
Donald Trump tweeted out, "Why is Jim Webb there?" How did Jim Webb do?
Well, Jim Webb has an incredibly distinguished service career, and he's got a great story of his own. In fact, I think social media spiked most while he was when he was speaking about his wife and when he was speaking about his military background. But I think he came off as whining when he was discussing the portion of time he was getting. And then when he got that portion of time, he didn't use it very eloquently and to the level that he needed. You knew that those guys coming in were not going to have the same airtime as Bernie and Hillary. That's just the fact. So you really have to plan those few minutes to make it the best of your ability. And by the way, Larry, one of my favorite quotes from you and that book is that you once said, "I've never learned anything while I was talking." And it's all about listening. And you can tell when a fellow debater is really listening to an answer, which then they can craft a response to, and when they just have something set up that they're going to blurt out whenever they have the moment. I think the more in these debates that they can listen to what each other is saying, I think the better they can portray themselves.
Who on the Republican side worries you the most?
Worries me? Oh, gosh. Donald Trump is a great corporate leader. I think he brings a lot to that stage, a lot of voter awareness. I would be more worried about a Marco Rubio when it comes to women than I am of Donald Trump. I look forward to it, Larry. Thank you so much for bringing the show to everybody.